Blade fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and we are proudly sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield, our main channel sponsor. If you're a growing business and want to continue that growth, they are the people to speak to. John is absolutely brilliant, and I cannot recommend him enough. Thank you for all your support, John. Absolutely fantastic, mate. And I'm looking forward to working with you next season as well. Also, thank you. We're also sponsored by Triple Point Brewery. Thank you to them for their continued support this season. That is our pre-match bar, or it was this season. We'll see what happens next year. We're assessing our options. I'm sure they are too. But they are an absolutely fantastic bar. We love working with them. So thank you to them for their support. VMB Autos, also a fantastic sponsor of the channel, and thank them also for their support. I wasn't planning on being here. I wasn't planning. That sounds a bit more dramatic than I needed it to. I wasn't planning on recording. Well, don't phone anybody. I'm fine. I wasn't planning on going live tonight. I wanted to wait until the retained list was out. That was my plan. My plan was wait, hold fire, because I am so eager to get these transfer videos rolling, because you all know, for those that have watched the channel for a while now, you all know how I love my transfer gossip, and whatever inklings I can find out and share with you, then I will. I sort of try and lean on little aspects that I know from the game, which I don't claim to know a lot, but, you know, I have a bit of a scouting background. My dad's obviously got a much more credible scouting background than myself. I try and sort of recommend players that I get excited about potentially fitting into our team whilst trying to be realistic. There's all sorts of names flying around. I know some channels have gone early. You know what I'm talking about, which is obviously absolutely fine. And we'll be talking about similar things, which is bound to happen. We're both fans of the same club. So you may hear some names on my lists that have been on others. Good to see that they're fans of the channel. It's nice to know. Yeah, fantastic from them. And obviously we'll be getting ours going soon. But I wanted the retained list out first, because then it's a clean sweep, isn't it? It's a blank canvas. We know we're going to start off, just pulling the curtain back a little bit, we're going to start off with our squad build, if you like. So we've done this before, where we rank a squad in terms of its strength and identifying where we need to strengthen most. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do this summer, but for those of you that have seen a video before, it went down really well last time we did it. So looking forward to that. That will be kicking off as soon as the retain list drops. And from what I understand, the retain list may have been delayed, may have something to do with the reason I'm on tonight, which is obviously, evening y'all, howdy partners, all this sort of stuff, because there are strong rumours from now several news outlets that we are in negotiations with an American consortium. Now, let me set the table a little bit. As you know, we press record on this channel. There's no script, there's nothing. And that can be counterproductive at times, but at least you're getting the authentic presentation, warts and all, if you like, whether that goes down well or not. But what I have done is I've saved the articles that I wanted to because I want to read it out, and I want everybody to be aware of what's being said today and what is rumoured to be happening. So it started off this morning. This was the first a lot of us heard about it. Alan Nixon released an article, and this is on his Patreon. So obviously credit to Alan Nixon for releasing this. And if you want to go and support him through his Patreon, I think it's only something like £2 a month. It's really reasonable. And a lot of people pour cold water on it, but others really look forward to his updates. I'd say in my personal opinion, that's all it is. There's a lot of quantity. And so you throw enough mud at the wall, some will stick. This seems to have some legs to it from the different sources that it's coming from. So Alan Nixon this morning started hairs running with Relegated Sheffield United are a takeover target for an American group who want a quick deal and a Premier League return. The Blades ownership have been looking to sell for some time now, and insiders reveal the Yanks are coming with an offer to take over Bramall Lane. United had a hard time in the top flight as they tried to balance the books in the market following previous spending sprees, and Blades face a hard summer with players leaving at the end of contracts and others being made available. The deal will depend on the valuation, with talk of £100 million price tag recently. However, the money to be bid is likely to be short of that. Sources at Bramall Lane are now talking openly of an imminent deal, and one that will affect both playing and management staff. Wow. As in, like, not just the fact that there's a potential takeover here. I have to point out that none of us, and I've even said it in recent videos, none of us knew or know the price. It's part of the due diligence as to when you enter negotiations to actually purchase the club. And I believe you've got to show some form of intent to purchase the club to get the actual price. And let's be right, it's not like you must pay X and that is it. There will be some negotiation. There might be pay this now, pay X another time. None of us know how it works officially. None of us are in those circles as far as I'm aware. I'm certainly not. And if you are, then you're in the vast minority. A lot of people have been saying, Prince needs to lower the price. Prince needs to lower the price. We don't know what the price is. So I understand that is an easy conclusion to jump to, that the Prince has been unreasonable with the price previously, which is why there's perhaps been some delay in any interest. But if the £100 million figure and however the money to be bid is likely to be short of that, that is cheap for a club our size, but you could also buy other championship clubs for that. So that fills me with some hope that they feel there's a real foundation here, that whatever the American group is that's coming in can take us forward and can get us back into the Premier League. So that's my take on it. There's a couple of ways you can look at it. Do they strike a hard bargain? Is that smart business? Are they being cheap by trying to get us lower than market value? You could say it's smart. You could say it's, it's concerning in certain ways. Everybody will have an opinion on it. The other thing that jumps out at you, obviously, from that statement is sources at Bramall Lane are now talking openly of an imminent takeover deal, and one that will affect both the playing and management staff. So I don't want to sort of throw speculation out there, but obviously this is an article that's been put out by Alan Nixon. And I don't mean to emphasize certain phrases, because obviously you can spin things however you want them to be spun. And I don't want that to be the case. But that to me says if there's a takeover, everything will be reviewed. And I suppose that's how it should be. Some will be delighted that might mean Wilder's future is now in question if there's going to be a takeover. Some, like myself, would think, well, this is quite concerning in some aspects, because I think he's the right man to know what we need. But we don't even know what level we're talking about, do we? We don't know if it's going to be, it certainly won't be a Newcastle, but we don't know whether it's going to be something like when Wolves got taken over in the Championship and had loads of money and could just really go for it. Or is it going to be more conservative, like in line with FFP and, a wealthy owner that is happy with a gradual build? So loads to think about there. That set everybody off this morning. So then the next bit of news to come out was, and I'll get past me thumbnail images that I've meant to do that dramatic thumbnail that you've seen tonight. This was corroborated at about 3:20 in the Telegraph by Mike McGrath, another well-respected journalist. A lot of people I saw on Twitter or X now saying, well, that to me gives it a little bit more credence because there's a bit more information and he's seen by some to be more reliable. Mike said in his article in the Telegraph, an American consortium of Silicon Valley-based private investors have revived their hopes of a takeover of Sheffield United following their relegation from the Premier League. The Capital Investment Fund have been looking at various projects and were interested in buying the Yorkshire club a year ago after promotion from the Championship, but no deal was struck with owner Prince Abdullah over a sale worth around £115 million when we were going into the Premier League. Bear that in mind, obviously. It's understood there have been further discussions in the last weeks, and the potential new owners have been looking at player options for the summer in the transfer market, with Chris Wilder's squad losing a raft of first-team players after finishing bottom of the Premier League. It's been on. According to a source close to the American consortium, they've been in advanced talks over a takeover, and there is hope of a breakthrough in the next month. They have also appointed an English-based technical advisor to liaise with the potential deal. Telegraph Sport revealed the original interest a year ago, quoting a source, they are a Silicon Valley-based capital investment fund looking at options potentially in the Premier League. That the final journalist, if you like, to confirm the news came from Radio Sheffield's Rob Staten at around 5:45 this evening, just before we came on, about an hour and a half since now. Rob just tweeted out, per a source close to Sheffield United, there have been initial conversations with the consortium from the United States interested in the club. These talks are in the early stages, though, also led to believe there are other interested parties. Wow, 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 wow. So, mind-blowing amount of information today. You can understand why I was forced back into a ramble early rather than wait for this return list to come out, because this is potentially huge, game-changing news for the club. And I don't just mean in terms of finances, I just mean in terms of the future of which way we can go. There's a couple of things we need, or I certainly need, to throw out there. And I'm happy, I'm excited, I am cautious. I think you should always be careful of what you wish for. There'll be some people absolutely delighted that it looks like Prince Abdullah's either on the way out or is going to now have a minority share in this, because you can't rule out, and he said it in our interview, that he would consider all options on the table. He would consider staying with an investor, so like a minority investor coming in to assist him with funding the club. He would also consider retaining a minority interest in the club going forward. So that's also possibly on the table. Or he'll consider a full sale, which is, what some people will undoubtedly want. We don't know anything about these investors at the moment. Just because we don't know doesn't mean they're not good, doesn't mean they are good. You look just across at Everton at what's happened with the 777 group. I think they've invested 200 million quid, and none of it was their money. It was all from self-funded from the club that was IOUs, and they are potentially now in a big financial mess. The other thing that I have to say is they could buy other championship clubs for cheaper. So is that a good thing? Is that, do they see us as the solid foundation of a Premier League club that they want, as opposed to another club even across the city, if you like? So there's that to think about in terms of our status, where we're going as a club, the Cat 1, the new training ground, the future looking so optimistic. You've got to think that that's played a part in significant interest. Obviously, Rob's now mentioned that there's other interest as well, which will only potentially not necessarily drive the price up. It might be better for Prince Abdullah than anybody else, but more people coming to the table gives us more options, doesn't it, I suppose? I mean, there's a couple of things that concern me. I think the fact that they're an investment fund would say that they're in it to make money. And whilst that seems a given, everybody should go into business to make money. A lot of chairmen or owners, usually, if they don't do it to make the money, which is obviously you've got to be in the Premier League to make money. So that could be a positive, because they have to be in the Premier League to make a quick buck on, or a return on their investment. So we would have to be in the Premier League for them to make this deal work. So they're going to push us as far as they can to go to the Premier League, which is great. But also, it's just there's so many factors to this, and I'm a little bit frazzled because it could go several ways. And is the concerns of asset stripping? Could they then sell off the training ground? Could they sell the ground? Could they sell the naming rights to the stadium? Are we going to turn up to the 7-Eleven Bramall Lane. It's absolutely crazy. The other concern I do have, which is more of the short term and more sort of realistic as to how it's going to directly affect us, and something that we've been also struck by in recent times, the transfer embargo that nobody seems to have mentioned really. And I don't mean the one that we've just gone under because of the non-payment of fees. People are sort of pointing towards, oh, well, this is Prince Abdullah's usual. He's coming up to a transfer window, so we'll pretend that there's a potential investor around the corner, so he don't have to spend anything, because obviously he's not going to be here. But it's not. My concerns aren't over the uncertainty of if he's going to be here, if he's not going to be here. My concerns are the actual due diligence period in such a crucial time for the club. We know what a big job we've got on here to rebuild this. It's been billed as the biggest rebuild in 10 years. Wilder's openly talked about that, and I agree. I know a lot of fans agree that we have got huge work to do over the summer. We can't afford to have any time off this window, as in like a due diligence period where transfers can't take place. All transfers are on hold now while a takeover's considered. That could put us massively behind in the race for some of the important players that we're going to need. So that is a concern that jumps out at me. I'm trying not to get too excited about it, because does it change the caliber of player that we're after? We've seen recently the club being linked with Callum Patterson. Not Callum Patterson. I said Callum Patterson because Nick said it on his video and I knew he got it wrong. And I was like, it's not Callum, it's Anthony. And now I've done it. Anthony Patterson at Sunderland, 8 million quid. Sheffield United aren't going to spend 8 million quid. I know we've done it in the past. We're now in the Championship. We're not going to spend 8 million quid. Well, we're half an eye to this consortium. Are we actually going to have a bit of money to spend? Don't know is the honest answer. We've also been linked with, is it Woutberger? Now, I'm not keen on surname, but the Stoke £4 million signing that's being rumoured to be going to Tottenham, apparently we're in the race, an alleged £12 million target. Now, I take these with a pinch of salt because it's United and there's going to be loads of players flying around. And when we get started on us transfer videos, we'll do that. We'll talk about all of these possibilities and what could happen, what couldn't happen, what we think is realistic, what we don't. But it's hard not to get excited and at the thought of it. And it's just been a huge sort of bolt out of the blue. And let's just hope there's some legs to it, because if any fan base deserves it, I think we've been through the mill, haven't we? So let's get into some of your comments, see what you say, and we'll roll from there. So Ian starts us off tonight saying, hopefully no relation to Henry and Maurice. Yeah, we've not had the best history with takeovers, have we, in the past? So Henry Maurice was done for fraud, I believe, and served prison time. Darren Smith popped up this morning on Twitter, I saw, just to say that, funny to see that just as Henry Maurice gets released from prison, we're linked to Americans. He then quickly popped back down again, and I don't think he's answered any questions on this subject. So we've no steer from Darren on this one at the moment, I'm afraid. Jamie's loving me thumbnail. Thank you, pal. Jimmy, don't fall for another plot to delay transfers. See, this is something, and listen, people are entitled to this spin. Do you genuinely think that is it? Do you think it's a ploy from the master tactician, Prince Abdullah? Because I don't, but some will think it's a smokescreen to slow activity. Chirac. Wow. I'm not reading it. Mark Hill. Hey, pal. He's not a new member. He's a returning member. And thank you for your continued support, mate. Tom Leake says, as long as it's nothing like the chimps tea party down at Chelsea, they have to be, or let football people run the club. Up the Blades, up the Samble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, pal. Very much appreciated. Bry, one of our Platinum Ramblers. Hi, Jimmy and Prince Abdullah. Do you reckon Prince Abdullah will still want a stake in the club? I actually hope he does, only because he would be able to get them to understand how we are as a club, i.e. the fan base. There will be a huge split opinion on that, Bry, as you probably know, mate. I would like that as a transition in terms of, knowing how the club operates rather than just a 3-month handover period. If the Prince retained an interest, then Yeah, absolutely right. I think I would like that. Some people would not. But I personally think the only thing we're able to not even criticise Prince Abdullah for, but point towards Prince Abdullah is the fact that something he's openly admitted, he hasn't got the money to push us forward as a club in the way that he'd want to. You'd think they would have done due diligence on the club, hopefully attended games. It could look bleak for Wilder if they want a change. I hope not. We want some stability for the time being up the Ramble. Top man, I would also like Chris Ramble. That's going to be his name by the time he's on here 10 times. Chris Wilder is given a chance. Absolutely right. That's my hope anyway. Dino, good evening, pal. We need to know more before we start cheering from the rooftops. I'd like the Prince to keep an interest in the club. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, mate. Pete Wilmot says, rumours are flying left, right and centre. Does that mean we're signing a player for left back, right back and centre? Don't get excited, Blades, but the fax machine is working. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. CJ says, I'm a supporter of Prince Abdullah, but it's starting to become a recurring theme, this sort of thing every transfer window. I really hope it's not a smokescreen to avoid investing. And there will be some cynics that think that, CJ. Understand that, pal? Because it has happened before, hasn't it? Mr. V comes in strong. Hell no. No more Yankees, please. Wow. Mr. V, stereotyping a nation there with his comment. I'm sorry, but I live 40 miles from the USA and visit monthly to shop. But when it comes to football, they're clueless and don't understand the game properly. No. Absolutely entitled to your opinion, Mr. V. I would not... To say that's broad strokes of one of the biggest countries in the world is, an understatement. Rob Kerr, our first ever Rambler. Nobody can take that away from you, Rob. And thank you, mate, for your continued support. Now a platinum Rambler to be owned by a group motivated by profit. What could go wrong? Hope for the best, I guess. More wise words from Rob. And that was something I was alluding to. I may not, because I had so much to get out, I may not have articulated it very well. But they will be driven by, it'll be a business to them. And that's not always a bad thing. Do Man City want to eventually see a profit? Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure every ownership model wants to see a profit, but being a consortium and a group of individuals will mean that they'll want to see a return, or at least a plan for a return. Now, that would obviously mean Premier League football. So it's not all a bad thing. It's not a case of, well, they want money, so they'll sell Arblaster and they'll sell Hamer and, they'll just make money after. No, they'll want their significant investment to be rewarded in the Premier League by the finances that come with the Premier League. So you'd hope that they would speculate to accumulate or spend money to make money. Howdy, Jimmy, says Ian. Howdy, pal. The article in the Telegraph says they've appointed an English-based technical director. Hopefully he knows what he's doing and they don't interfere with recruitment, etc. I think, pal, the way I read it was it's a technical advisor for the takeover element. I don't think it's a technical director to work with Wilder. They wouldn't have appointed anybody directly to be directly involved with the club without having any ownership in it. So that's the way I read it, that it's somebody to deal with aspects of the takeover and the due diligence element of it. S11 Blade says, hi, Jimmy. The article talks about it affecting both playing and non-playing staff. How do you see it affecting this summer's transfers and the plan Wilder and Prince Abdullah will have in place? Wilder gone in 6 months. Wilder could have been gone in 6 months anyway. It all depends on the start he gets off to. And I now hope that this doesn't mean he doesn't get a chance to get off to that significant, strong start, if you like. For me, I wouldn't change a thing. In terms of the staffing, Wilder has just rebuilt or is in the process of finalising the rebuild of his backroom staff. There's got to be a period of, for me, because some would be an advocate of clearing it all out, particularly if there's a lot of money coming into the club. But I think he deserves a chance at building. Some will disagree and everybody's entitled to their opinion. In terms of will it affect the summer transfers, usually there will be hundreds of names on lists and you will whittle it down. Wilder will have had 100 million quid's worth of players on his list when he first started scribbling it down. That may mean, if he knows now he's got significantly more money than he thought, and this is obviously best case scenario, then he can obviously go back to the drawing board with that list and sort of go higher up the list. But if it's a status quo, which I would expect it to be honest, and that's just for, you know, keeping things steady and ticking over, I think it won't affect plans immediately. We may see some changes in January or even in the following window, but I think to have a takeover completed and then new budgets drawn up and stuff, it just seems like a too quick a turnaround. It may happen, I don't know. It's all news to us, isn't it? Up the blades, up the ramble. Thank you, mate. I would like to see Prince Abdullah stay on in an advisory role, says Ian, at least for a while. Make the takeover happen. Up the blades, up the ramble, says Josh. Dave Leary, Platinum Rambler, and smells so good. You smell incredible. I hope that if it happens, I hope people that are here that aren't normally here understand what I meant by that, by the way, 'cause otherwise it just comes across as weird. Let's hope that if it happens, then it's a planned and careful period of development so we don't gamble it all on a quick buck. Pardon the pun, quick buck. Yep, nice, mate. Also, to throw a theory out there, we've been linked with Patterson and Berger for big fees. Has the interest come about because we may soon have money to spend? Up the blades, up the ramble, man on my wavelength. Any substance to this story, and how much US dollars will it cost to buyers, says Ant. Well, I've read out two stories earlier that said, one said 100 million quid, one said that we were being considered by this consortium for 115 million pounds when we were going into the Premier League this time last season. So it'll be around the 100 million pound mark, I think, if not a little bit less, because Alan Nixon said it's potentially going to be a touch less. Sean just absolutely kills me there for my Archer recommendation. Fair. Gaza hopes not. I don't know what that's in relation to. Sheffield Weathercam says, bring it on, I'd say. Prince Abdullah can fly into the sunset. We need a rebuild, including the manager, onwards and upwards. Ollie says, Jimmy, could you buy the club with Billy Sharp and Sean Bean? Our only hope. You're joking, aren't you? You're joking. Not after this blooming thing behind me. Danny Boy says, we just need to make sensible signings, filling key positions for proven championship veterans. If we go up, we just have to replace with better players. We've got to cut cloth accordingly and be sensible with money. Yeah, I agree, Danny. I agree. You've got to work to the levels that you're operating in, haven't you? I think, you know, we're not... that is obviously thinking that we're coming into significant money. Doesn't necessarily mean that, does it? And whether we do or we don't, we've seen... Oh, I hate to compare this, but you look at Forest in the Premier League, who their owner wants to spend loads of money, but because of financial fair play restrictions, they've obviously been bitten because of that. I'm not going to go into all that because obviously there's loads of sub-categories that we could talk about. But just because we might come into a lot of money might not mean we might be restricted with what we can do with it. When were you getting your 10-gallon hat on, pal? 10-gallon hat? Is that an American thing, Rich? So it's above me, that, to be fair. Up the Yankee blade, says Aim of Time. Wait until they find out we can have a stoppage in play for adverts every 5 minutes. Don't. Steve Holmes, good evening, pal. Do prospective buyers have chance to fund transfers before being ratified by the Football League? Yeah, they'll have chance. I don't know how smart it'd be, because if the rug got pulled, I think it's unlikely, Steve, to be fair, mate, because if it doesn't go through, then they've lost their money, haven't they? Cole, good evening, mate. Always been cautious when it comes to trying to push forward a takeover, because although there are many good examples, there's also awful ownership out there, like Bowley at Chelsea. Us Blades need to be careful. That's right. I mean, Bowley's got, or appears to have, all money in the world, doesn't he? And it's been disastrous for Chelsea. You know, just spend does not equal success. It obviously vastly increases your chances of success, but it don't automatically mean that. So I get what you're saying. You've got to be careful what you wish for, aren't you? Which would give me a little bit, personally, and people will feel different to this, but I would be a little bit more reassured if Prince Abdullah still maintained an interest in the club. And obviously, you know, we're an honest channel here. I'm not going to try and pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Obviously, it benefits the channel if I've still got contact with someone who's linked to the club. There's no secrets about that at all. It obviously I've got selfish reasons also, but I do genuinely think that Prince Abdullah's done a very good job for the club, and I don't have to say that necessarily, but everybody knows that's my honest opinion. Just hope the incoming consortium respect the Blades' values of what we are and where we are coming from, not to tear apart our identity and put it on Netflix. Just remember, they are custodians, not owners. Well said, Danny. Well said, mate. Yeah, I absolutely agree. We are working hard currently particularly with our management team, to restore the culture and the values at the football club. And a lot of us are proud of that. And a lot of us are desperate to get back to that, where we're a difficult team to beat. We're proud of representing Sheffield United. And I don't want to jeopardize that for anything. I don't want, 6 Vinny Sousas coming in, for example. I'm not saying I'm totally against the foreign market and we have to be Brexit FC, but Vinny Sousa, to me, is not a Sheffield United player. So, I had no problem with Anel coming in. He did a great job for us in Championship, but Vinny has just not done it, has he? So, what can they offer us? Millie, good evening. I really, really, really want a zig-a-zig. Hope something good comes of this. If ever a fan base deserves some good news, I think I said something similar. Absolutely, Millie, completely agree. We're due some good news, aren't we? We are due some good news as a fan base. It's been a terrible season, and this would be a lovely, welcome surprise for us. I just want us to have owners that realise what it is as a club that we like, and don't make us the new Wrexham with big name players. Look at our best in the past few years and tell me how many are big names. That's right. I'm not interested in becoming the next. Will it be like a Man City or a Newcastle? Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to turn my nose at that, but that is definitely not what's happening here. There would be so many more headlines if it were going to be on that sort of scale. Do not be thinking around that. I'll be absolutely amazed if it's not just a, I'm hoping they're wealthy. If billion is mentioned after whatever wealth is mentioned, then I'm happy. Don't have to be, 40. Just 1 billion would be nice. Takeover won't happen. Won't stop any business already being done in the transfer market. The rebuild's already over, says Chirac. Always welcome here, pal. John says, shoot me down, but Bettis in his Radio Sheffield interview said Prince Abdullah had employed a company, he did, Lazard, to identify and vet prospective owners and advise on fair valuation. In my opinion, this sounds more promising. I agree, John, and very well said, mate. Completely agree. Would we have seen this before? Will it stop us doing early business, says Scott, with this ongoing in the background? And by the time we do anything, it'll be too late. Our plans still have to carry on up the Blades, up the Ramble. That's a concern of mine, Scott, as well. As much as it'll be great for the long term, as will all the plans that are already in place, we all know how important this summer is. We cannot jeopardise it for anything, can we? We cannot jeopardise it. Gazza says, can't believe Stoke got Victor Janssen. That, to me, proves what ambition this owner's got. Can't wait to see what the budget is going to be for the rebuild. The budget is Wilder's to do with what he wants. If Wilder wanted Johansson, he could have gone out and got Johansson. I think what a lot of us, me included at times, are not seeing is, and it don't mean we have to agree with it. I don't think Wilder's ever had Victor Johansson high up on his list. We've spoken to Victor Johansson, or we did do, obviously, before the Stoke move, but he was never number one priority. Stoke went out straight away, said, we want you, you're going to be our number one. We didn't do that. And that, obviously, if we'd have wanted him that badly, Wilder would have got him, because we have more pull than Stoke. And that's not a dig at Stoke, because they're a big club and they've got a lot of money. But just in recent history, and you look at the situations both clubs are in terms of who's more likely to bounce back to the Premier League, a lot of people would say Sheffield United before Stoke. So I think, I don't think Vic were as much on our radar. He was on the radar, but he wasn't as high up the list as he was with a lot of fans, me included. John says, the previous two shambles, that is, in terms of takeovers, agree with concerns about Wilder's future, identity of the club and connection with our fan base. Absolutely right, mate. Chris Smith, hey, pal. Hi, Jimmy. Can you think of any American-based takeovers that have gone well? It's not great at Man U, Birmingham or Everton. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. It's not something I'm overly up on in terms of ownership models. However, I did read something today that said every Premier League club at some level have American investment. So I think Villa, aren't they American owned? And look at the progress they've made. Obviously, other clubs that have done well recently will have had some level of American investment, as well as the examples that you give. So Birmingham are a prime example, though, aren't they? It looked like they were going to have a real go. All these big names coming in. Tom Brady being involved with club and all. Was it Tom Brady at Birmingham? But all these big names coming in. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't know what to do with it, Everton under Mashiri, loads of money throwing it about. Wasted. Jim Bob says, just worries me that Everton's owners have the same kind of business. Yeah, I know what you mean. Has it started, says Sean. Yes, I have started, mate. I have started. That's where I am with my comments. The consortiums all seem to want to borrow lots of money against the club. Yeah, Chris, these sort of things concern me. I'm with you, mate. We don't know enough about it, do we, at the minute? Jamie says, when's the return list out? Show Wilder told us by Wednesday. I think he told us Tuesday. From what I understand, there are still talks ongoing with some players. That won't obviously delight loads of people. But for example, you see all these returned lists come out, which will say the club would like to confirm the 5 released players that we've already talked about: Adam Davis, Jordan Amissa. And then we'll all be looking for the same names, won't we? What's happening with John Egan? What's happening with Bogle? What's happening with McBurney? Well, if they're talking to some of these players still, it'd be nice to be able to say, Ollie McBurney signed a new 2. Well, it will be for some people. Evening, Dad. Ollie McBurney signed a new 2 or 3 year deal for United, rather than we're still in ongoing discussions. So I'm happy to wait for it if we're going to get some positive news out of it. I'm maybe putting a bit too much pressure on there, but I think there's reasons for the delay, from what I understand. That's what Scotty's being encouraged because he's warning Chirac about his behaviour. Ollie Mack cameo video looks very promising. Yeah, there were a cameo video released on Twitter of Ollie Mack because he's on Cameo, which is something where you can pay to have a video done from celebrities, and he's on there. And he's sent it. It's been paid for by Annie's Song Steve, a mate of mine. We go a bit back and forth because he's not a fan of the ownership model, shall we say? But basically, McBurney's been on his message, and Annie's Song's posted it on Twitter for everybody to see. Hopefully, see you next season is how he finishes the video off, up the blades, all this sort of thing. So leaving the door slightly ajar. So. Jake Lear says they're going to start selling corn dogs on the cop for next season. Don't know, mate. Don't know. We'll see. Evening, Tim. Hope you're okay. I'm very good, mate. Thank you. I hope you're having a nice time away. I'm very happy with Prince Abdullah and Chris Wilder. Let's keep the essence of the blades. Love that. And Sarah he's hoping for corn dogs on the cop. Corn dogs on the cop. Maybe that would have been a better thumbnail. Dave, good evening, mate. The thing is, we desperately need investment. But finding the right one is essential. So I'd rather wait till we're 100% sure and they have the club's interest at heart. Up the blades, up the ramble. Thank you, mate. Yeah, I agree. It's all right getting all excited about the unknown, isn't it? We are sort of drawing a wild card out here. It could be, really good, really positive. Or it could be Tuna Man 2.0. And nobody wants that. So... How has Alan Nixon, of all people, got his grubby hands on this first? Well, his contacts, hasn't he? Clearly got contacts at the club. From what these articles are saying, it's a fairly open secret at the club at the moment. With the academy being moved to Cat 1, says Jay Clear, and land being bought around the lane, do you think that was something potential buyers wanted before buying? I think it certainly encourages buyers, doesn't it? It's enticing for that more assets are on the balance sheet. We talked about that in the last Ramble. Mr. Man Mountain himself. Hope it doesn't derail the plans. Seriously need to ensure we're not caught short come day 1 of the season. Exciting. We've no idea how good or bad this can be. We deserve some luck. Ronnie, thanks you. Shout out, Ronnie. Happy birthday, mate. Hope you're doing well. Top Rambler. And your dad's all right as well. Josh says, if they have money to spend, then get them in. Let's just hope they proceed with the academy improvements. Yeah, I think they will, mate. I think they will. Let's hope they're not frauds like the last American. And Tommy says, yeehaw. Nobody clip that, please. Matthew Ragg says, new owner and new manager in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then no, Matt. No chance, mate. We're not. No. It won't be that quick for a takeover for one. And I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed if they clear Wilder out. And I think there'd be a bit of a backlash as well. I think there would. Because so much as we've heard noise about people not being happy with him and even his performance this season since coming back, not only the fact that he did come back, some people are also unhappy with his performance. There are also people like myself who are very pro Wilder and think he is the man to turn us around. So I think that wouldn't necessarily get him off to a great start. I think what they would probably do is keep him in post to see how he goes. And if it tips well, then he'll keep his job. And if it tips poorly, then here comes Wayne Rooney. Could be upper management rather than playing management. Could be. But we feel settled at the minute in that respect. That's always going to come with a takeover, though, isn't it? So, yeah, you're right, Ian. We'll read all sorts into this, won't we, as a fan base? That's part of the fun, to be fair. We've got to be patient, says Shoei. I'm hoping things won't change much regarding Wilder's plans. Me too, mate. Me too. The return of Henry Maurice. Oh, God. Does report management regard playing management? Don't know, mate. Don't know. Is there any truth in the rumour that if we are being bought out, we face not an L? Carl, I'm hoping you've finished that off somewhere later on down the line, mate. Don't make sense to me at the minute. Andy, good evening, pal. One of our ramblers. I understand the concern here, but I think it's fallacious to worry about. To worry about it because of Everton, Birmingham previous buy attempts, etc. For all we know, there might be a good fit for us. Wait and see. Love that glass half full mentality. We don't know, do we? We don't know. Because Gaza is cautious with a capital C. And that's fair. That's fair as well. Happy Chappy. I'm not going to read that out because you swear, but it will be a load of rubbish. If the report is true, wanting 100 million for a team that's just come rock bottom of the Prem is ridiculous. It's not just the team, is it? It's not the players. It's the whole thing. It's the assets. It's the ground. It's the training plans and the academy. Everything. The commercial deals. Everything wrapped up. Hope they stick with Wilder, says Fairfield, for the rebuild. He knows our club. He knows what we need. If results are poor by December, then can get someone else in for that window, in my opinion. This summer is far too important. I completely agree. Completely agree, mate. Of course, it's also no good getting overexcited about it too. Yeah, that's right, Andy. Level-headed. Love that. That's fair. If being bought, can we still bring players in, or will we face another embargo till it's sorted? Yeah, Carl, that's the concern, mate. That is the concern, that we're going to go under another embargo just for that period while we're being overtaken. But it's too important a time, isn't it, for the club? Main concern with whoever comes in is they get rid of Wilder, as I don't want him to go, as I see him as the man to lead us forward. Yeah, a lot of that tonight. And obviously, I'm pro. I know I appreciate I'm the one that's sort of on the channel, and I'm pro Wilder, but that doesn't mean you have to be. It's all about, how you feel about it as well. We're open to all opinions as long as it's clean. Anglo-Saxon 66 says, Yank takeover, always risky. Plenty of examples of their inability to understand English football and its intricacies. Liverpool's another example, isn't it? They haven't done bad under Klopp. They selected a brilliant manager. They've had a sustained period of success and always been hunky-dory for them while they were there. But there are also models where it's gone well. How much are the season tickets at the new Orgreave Stadium? Don't know, mate. 368 people in here, says Scott. That was at 7:15. Hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, mate, for doing us a solid and reminding people about that. There are now 469 people here. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's clearly a topic that we're all interested in. What happens with the money for the rebuild if we have a potential takeover? Well, some would argue that there's no money for the rebuild. The truth is we don't know the budget currently, do we? We know it's going to be fairly modest, although it's circulated quite widely that we are going to have the second or third best budget in the league. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be splashing out millions on transfer fees, but it means we're going to be very competitive. If we have a takeover, that may change for better or worse. We don't know, do we, Gaz? We don't know until we know a little bit more information about these coming in. Carl McDonald says, I don't particularly want Wilder to leave, but there's a certain inevitability about it. Every new owner wants their own people in. I think that may happen eventually, but, and I may be wrong here, did the Newcastle owners bring in Eddie Howe? I don't think they did. And because everybody just assumed they were going to go out and get a Jose Mourinho or an Ancelotti, didn't they? Eddie Howe outperformed himself and kept his job. I don't know whether they brought him in initially for like a slower rebuild, but I understand what you're saying, Carl, and usually that's the case, but I think there are people that have booked the trend with that as well. It's more than a rebuild, says Carl Gurnhill. It's reforging of the blades. Oh, nice. Nice. I like that. 12 mil, lol. Yeah, that's for the Vout burger rumour. I know. But we could be operating in a different ballpark, couldn't we, if it's true? If it's true, and it's a big if. I read earlier that the Americans have picked out their own targets, so the rumours of the likes of Smodics, Berger and Patterson are probably who they've picked out with the help of Wilder, most likely. Maybe. I don't think Wilder will have sat around a table with them yet, particularly if it's in early stages with Prince Abdullah. So we'll see. If they spend the money on players, it won't be their money. Debt and more debt, says Fatty Folk. Do you know? How do we know that? How do we know? You don't even know what the plan is. I get the concern that could be the case because that's happened at other clubs. So Gaza, for example, thinks it's a smokescreen, but only time will tell. Fair. Absolutely fair. Could be. I don't think it is, from what I'm hearing. Joe Walter says capital investment means they need to turn and take a profit from the growth in the value of the club. Don't expect them to splash the cash like a passion project for a guy with more money than sense. Yeah, that's previously what you'd have wanted, isn't it? You'd have wanted a Sheffield United fan or somebody who falls in love with the club magically. But we know there aren't any of them about. And with financial fair play now in operation, you can't really do that anyway. You can't go out and splash as much as you want on a club that you love. You've got to do it incrementally. So I agree with you, Joe, in terms of they will be a lot more methodical in the way that they spend money. But the whole point of their investment is to grow the club. Otherwise, their investment's not worth anything. So completely agree with the thought process, pal. But I think maybe some of the recent tweaks might change that. I don't know. Ray Proctor, top man, elite Rambler. I post on Ramblers that my worry is that if it happens, Chris's future at the club could be in doubt. Delaying announcing the return list only fuels the doubt about his future. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. Well, his name will not be on the return list. Don't worry about that. He's staying at the club, certainly for the foreseeable. I will be amazed if there's any changes to the managers, to the dugout. I can't see it personally. Jay Clear says, for the lack of money, what Prince Abdullah has, he's got shirt prices, ticket prices, season ticket prices spot on. Hope the potential new owners do similar. There's all that to consider, isn't there? Because Prince Abdullah takes an awful lot of stick for the lack of investment, and you can understand the frustration from fans who just want the club to be more ambitious. But you also realise that he's come out and basically said, I need help. I need financial support if we're going to push the club on. The easy thing to do would be to borrow against the club and sort of mortgage our future. Another easy thing would be to pinch little bits where he can, like they've done over the other side at City. And they're paying nearly double the prices for a season ticket. So there's got to be some perspective on what Prince Abdullah has and hasn't done for us. And that, again, is just my opinion, but a great point from Jay Clear. Inability to understand English football and its intricacies, which can't be worse than our players' inability to understand English football and its intricacies. Fair. Asset stripping also isn't normally what an investment company wants to do. It often results from the seller overinflating the growth potential or asset value, and then the investor trying to claw back. All right. Yeah, see, I don't know enough about this strategy sort of implementation. Hi, Jimmy, says Adam. Just tuned in. Do we know if these have proper money? No, we don't, mate. We are sitting with our fingers crossed. There's nothing happened yet, has there? These are just strong rumours that have been circulating in the press that we're talking about. So fingers crossed it's got legs. The more outlets that pick it up makes it a little bit more likely every time. If we do get a new owner, we can't spend too much or we'll fall foul of FFP. But we'll have the first year's parachute payment, 42 million, plus any money made from transfers. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. Like and subscribe. Thank you, pal. Ray Proctor says, if it happens, we do we welcome Rooney as our new manager? Perish the thought. Sooner have Colleen Rooney. Absolutely. Horses for courses. You mean these players leaving in the Exodus? Yeah, I can't see that having much of an impact, seeing as though they're gone. Yankona's running it incompetently will have an effect, though. Can't please everybody, can we? We cannot please everybody. Loving this news, though I do hope the Prince stays on. I've also forgotten to do something that I said I would do earlier, so check out our Ramble Fitness Challenge.
Hello there, Blades fans. Do you want to get fit, feel better, and get into shape? Well, Jimmy and I have teamed up to bring you the Blades Ramble Health and Fitness Challenge. My name's Steve. I'm a Sheffield United fan, a Platinum Rambler, and I'm also an award-winning personal trainer who's been featured on Sky News, Men's Fitness, and many, many more. I will provide you with workout plans, and no matter how fit you are or where you're starting from, you'll be able to do something. I'll provide you with nutrition coaching, and then we're going to have the amazing Rambler community support you, keep you accountable, and motivate you along the way. You can do it! And the best thing about it is, if you don't hit your goal, I will give you your money back. So if you're interested in finding out more, click the link below, and let's get you fit.
Nice one, Stevie. Thank you, pal. Alessandro says, until it's 100% official and the money is on the table and pumped towards the players, cautious to this. Absolutely right, mate, and right to be cautious. Tommy says, I want to say I'll trust the Prince to sell the club to someone or some people with good intentions for the club, but after the Henry and Dozy debacle, I'm not overly sure. Fair. Honestly, I have zero faith, says Happy Chappy, in the board to sell to anyone decent. Prince seems like he's ready to palm us off on anyone that will take us. He hasn't had the best track record of prospective buyers, has he? There's no getting away from that. Done with the club's core values held in principle too, is what Alessandro wants. EGT says, have you seen that Ollie Arblaster might go to West Ham for 22 million? I've also seen that Ollie Arblaster might go to Villa, might go to Newcastle, might go to Man U, might go to Everton. Loads want Ollie Arblaster. Loads want him. He's ours. He's ours. As far as I'm aware, no release clause. Every player has his price. So he's not unattainable for any of them, but they will have to show us the money. That's another conversation we can get into at another time, but I don't think there's any immediate danger that we lose Ollie, although it is a possibility. Billy says it could be amazing, could be the worst thing ever, could land anywhere in between. We won't know more until who the alleged interested party is. I'm very skeptical of American investment in general. Not sure the cultures align, even in successful cases like FSG at Liverpool, and not sure the leveraged debt they often come with is great for us. Look at Burnley. I'd be happy with some continuity. Interesting, mate. Good point. It's well made. Sam Hashimi not took up US citizenship, has he? Could be him or her or whatever. Moving on. They could have a match-worn boot for 22 million if they want. Maybe throw in a shirt. That's as close as they get into Blaster. Love that. Love that. With the current owner too, would keep a semblance of stability during a potential transition. Completely agree. Aston Villa went well under American ownership, says Happy Chappy. That's absolutely right, they did. And Villa, Fulham, and recently Hull, I think all have had decent American investors. Is the Hull lad American? I think we're Turkish, but I might be wrong. Liverpool did well, even though they definitely broke FFP rules. Hull's is Turkish, says Billy. Abdullah out, says Will Pendergast. Sorry for butchering your name, pal, but you're an Abdullah out kind of guy. Andrew Brinley, evening, Jimmy. We must keep Wilder. He's the one getting the team ready who wants, etc. If the new owners come in, for EG say, are we letting you go? We'll be in a right mess. Yeah, if new owners come in and, for example, say we are letting you go, we will be, or to Wilder, getting rid. Yeah, maybe so. We need some stability, don't we? Certainly in this period. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. Sorry, I was thinking Millwall, wrong mid-championship club. Just as long as they don't keep saying soccer. Yeah, absolutely right. Susan, good evening. Hope you're well. Hotel California. This could be heaven. This could be nice. One of our platinum ramblers, Susan. Hope you and Malk are doing well. Stuart says, rumours, Jimmy. Let's see what happens. I'm old enough to remember the fiasco of Sam Hashimi. See, I don't. Sorry, Ben, that I skipped past your comment because I didn't know who Sam Hashimi was. I've heard, is he one of the old con men that tried to take over United? Let me know. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. I would sack Wilder as well, says Lord Tullum. I think we're going to struggle in the Championship at first. All opinions, mate. All opinions. And You know, a lot of people will point to Wilder's recent record and say that he may struggle, but I want him. I want him as part of the club going forward. Be careful what you wish for, says Daniel. Prince has done all right by us. Just a shame his pockets aren't deep enough. Love the content, Jimmy. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, Dan. Love the support, pal. Thank you. And thank you for being a Rambler. It's very much appreciated. Platinum Rambler, Mr. Clark. Stick or twist, Jimmy. It's a twist with cautious optimism for me. And away we go. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Found it eventually. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Top man, Clarky. Cam says, will you be getting an American flag out instead of a Nigerian one this time? Ooh. Yeah, probably will. Yeah. Can I be bought? Am I that fickle? Absolutely right, I am. And if I have to drink Coors now instead of Guinness, then I'll do that. Isn't Burnley's owner American? And they've seen some improvements, especially in the type of players, and have money pumped into the club. Yes, Jay Clear, he is American, I believe. He was linked to United, but he's leveraged all the club's money to fund those purchases. And now that they've been relegated, they're in a bit of a situation. Jesse Marsh next. No, thanks. He's at Canada now. That's absolutely true. Dan says, remember McDonald, remember McCabe. It can get very dangerous. Careful what you wish for. Oh, Dozy Mabuzi clip returning. Oh, never heard of him. Never heard of him. Good evening, Dozy. Mike Ashley brought Howe in. Thank you, Gaz. So, yeah. So Howe was there before the huge investment that went into Newcastle. We all thought, I think, would want to bring in their own man, a bigger name, if you like. They haven't. They've just stuck with Eddie, see how it goes. And he actually did very well for him. Now he's gone on to a bit more of a sticky wicket. We'll see how it ends up. But, yeah, Howe was already there. Coming from Silicon Valley, then bloke's got a few quid. Never know, it might be that Tesla bloke. If only, mate. If only. Don't forget what American owners tried to do last year. That was screw the Premier League and the pyramid system for a Super League. No to Yankee owners. Mr. V, very strong on this. Very strong. You can't tar everybody with the same brush just because of where they're from. Come on, Mr. V, you're better than that. You're better than that. James L says we're the perfect stage to buy someone who wants to change things up and do things their own way, whether that be good or bad. Squad is a blank canvas completely. So the perfect chance for a new manager. And we're agreeing with you all the way along there, James. You lured me in. Jimmy, how do I get into the group chat? Cheers. You are a Rambler, can see by the symbol next to your name. So if you go to our community page, you will now have access to like our members' posts and my number's on there. If you drop me a message, pal, we will get you in, and thank you for your support. Billy says, spot on to Andy's level-headed comments. Thank you for that, pal. Could be great. Might not. Let's wait and see. Absolutely right. Do you think the Prince will still have a place in the club if we get taken over? That's pure speculation, Brad, at the minute. That was on the table when they were having initial discussions. And the Prince, in our interview, said he would like to, or he'd certainly consider remaining at the club in some capacity, whether that's a minority owner or what have you. So I'm sure it's all part of the ongoing discussions, and we're yet to have that information confirmed. I'm all for a change in ownership, Jimmy, says John. Things could not stay as they were, and the Prince wants to sell. Things can only get better. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. I hope you're right, pal. I hope you're right. That it can only get better. What have you personally heard, Jimmy? What have you heard from your sources? Jim Bob, see you in Platinum Ramblers chat. There must be a billionaire somewhere around door that supports United. Maybe so, Gaz. Maybe so, mate. Well said, Mr. Vancouver. It was a group of yank billionaires at the biggest clubs in England that tried to literally kill the Premier League. Skeptical thinking is just sensible. Yeah, sometimes it's self-preservation, isn't it, to be protective. So on that note then, Mr. Anglo-Saxon and Mr. V, would you prefer the status quo and things to stay as they are and see if under Prince Abdullah, Chris Wilder can rewrite the ship and get us back to where we belong, or where we want to be, should I say? Let me know. Let me know. Talks seem to have been ongoing for a while, says the Bartman. Yet Wilder has said in interviews that he's already been talking to players. He has. That may lean towards Wilder being the man for the rebuild still. Absolutely right, he does. Absolutely right. He's well underway with this rebuild. Just because we haven't signed anybody yet doesn't mean the wheels aren't turning, because they definitely are. Get the shoes ready to shake, boys. See you down beautiful downtown Bramall Lane. Shoes off in the car park. Alls, good evening, pal. As long as it's not Simon Jordan, I'm happiest man alive. I like Simon Jordan. I don't know that's controversial, but I do. And I think a lot of people do. It's probably a guilty pleasure of some. Off topic, says Rob, but is there any way we can keep Archer? No. I know Villa have a buyback clause, but do they have to buy him back, or can we keep him? No, Rob. It's an obligation to buy him back rather than an option. They have to buy him back now, and he don't want to stay in the Championship. Sorry, America Takeover, says Shore and Boys. I've read anything about football all day now. This what? All right, okay. All says, well, if you want an owner who cares, then don't bother with someone who doesn't even know the game's right name and someone who calls us Sheffield. Who will be next someone? My word. I don't know if you're all excited and celebrating. Rob, we would have to do a new deal, if I'm honest. I don't think Archer is a Sheffield United player. Seems disinterested. Brereton Diaz shown more commitment, and he was alone. Rob says, let's see what the prospective new owners are all about before we get carried away. Until it happens, we're all guessing. Correct, Rob, but it's fun to guess into it. We've got to talk about it and see what we know. And yeah, I enjoy this sort of speculation, I'll be honest. What will we all be happy to sell Blaster for? I'm not selling Blaster. That would make me happiest to keep him. Because I'd have to get another player to say, subscribe to the Ramble. And I can't do that. He's got to be our gem. 40 million at least. There's a reason all these teams want him. He is absolute class. Absolute class. Name one other Premier League club, says 1010, that would have employed Wilder as manager last season. Blades clinging on to past glories. I wouldn't say his record was any better than Hecky's. Is that you, David Webster? But absolutely right. People will have that opinion. He wasn't employed on his recent managerial record, was it? He was employed on the job he's done and proven he can do at our club previously. I have faith in him to do that. People like 1010 and David Webster do not have faith in him to do that. Absolutely fine. Samantha Hashimi, that was a lucky escape. Who would be your top 3 signings for us this window? Keep it Ramble, Blades all the way. And when we're not talking strictly about ownership, you'll be looking at loads of transfer videos from me, don't worry. Sam Hashimi tried to buy the Blades years ago and moved to Don Valley. Then he changed sex and then back. All right, interesting. It's probably a right idea to cut that conversation there then. S says, US bank on the verge of collapse. BRICS are going for a gold-backed currency. Stay with the prince. That's oil-backed. I don't know if it is oil-backed, to be fair. But what will come first, Jimmy? The takeover or the wife getting a kitchen back full-time? Good question. I'm hoping the wife getting a kitchen back full-time. But I'll take a takeover. Mark Elwell says, exciting as the new takeover might be, still have a feeling it could be a case of better the devil you know. Yeah, absolutely. There's always that sort of contingency in there. That sort of worry at the back of your mind. Could well be. Better the devil you know. Terence, good evening, pal. I think Wilder might have been involved with the talks about a possible new owner. Hello has been saying we will definitely be competitive next season, not hopefully. Up the Blades. He has been saying. He's been saying we'll definitely be competitive next season, not hopefully we'll be competitive. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Wilder's absolutely dogged in his determination to make us battlers next season. We will be up there. I've no doubt about it. He says all the right things and people will sort of say it's less about the talk now, but you'd run through brick walls for him. Why do takeover talks always come to light when there's a transfer window opens, says Chris. Absolutely. Fatty folk, have you just become a Rambler? I don't know whether you were already, but if not, thank you for your support. Other interested parties too, let's not forget, could get very interesting. United have a lot going for them, so it's no surprise. Yeah, could be. Playing catch up, Jimmy, says David. Me too, mate. I'm still behind on some comments. I'm getting there now, though. I'm about 4 minutes behind you. 1010, name one Premier League manager who would want to manage us. Yeah. Fair point. Whoever the owner is, as long as we keep Wilder, I'll keep the faith. Up the Blades, up the Aunt Joe. You're talking my language, pal. Love that. Love it. Sarah, good evening. Hope you're well. I'm happy to relax and wait and see what happens with this takeover, although I'm not willing to wait and see when it comes to the rebuild new signings. I can't cope with another window like the last. Me neither. We need some big movement this window, don't we? Wilder can rebuild the club. He knows what what's best for us, says David. Absolutely right, he does. Sorry, I could never multitask. I'm trying to sort of look up two things at once. David says, Wilder can rebuild the club. He knows what is best for us, in my opinion. I completely agree, David. Completely agree. He's the man for me as well. 2, they nearly did me in. You see, that's what I was reading, Sarah. I didn't know what 2 nearly did me in. You throw me completely. Nothing wrong with American owners, says John. Look at Ryan Reynolds at Wrexham. At least there's interest in the club. Could be worse. Let's have faith and enjoy the ride. Up the blades. Completely right. Enjoy the rise. Don't know whether that were intentional or not, but Burton Diaz wanted by Ipswich, says Danny. Not a surprise. I think if he doesn't go back to Villarreal, he'll certainly be in the Premier League. Joe has just become a new Rambler. Thank you for your support, pal. Very much appreciated. He says, whoever the owner is, as long as we keep Wilder, I'll keep the faith, up the blades, up the Ramble. I think you've said that already, but I'm still in agreement with you. Will we be able to buy players while this is ongoing? No, there'll be a period where you can't have any transfer activity, which is a little bit concerning. Oh, the last 2 windows nearly did you in. Yes, me too, Sarah. They've not been pleasant, have they? Well, we've hardly done any decent business, any business at all, really, of any note. So keep us up to date. Jimmy Led says, Danny boy, I will do. We are now at the end of all the comments. So rush your last few through because I'm going to wrap up now. Thank you to everybody that's joined me tonight. How exciting is this? I mean, it could go south, couldn't it, to be fair? It might fizzle out and come to nothing and just be similar to previous rumours and takeover. But this, I had to jump on tonight because there certainly seems to be some ramped up interest in this from local media, and it's coming from more significant names. So I'm asking people, I'm talking about it, I'm finding out bits, but I don't want to sort of share those without either permission or knowledge of them being accurate, if that makes sense. So we'll see how we go. Let me know in the comments. If you've missed us live, then let me know what your thoughts are too. I try my best to get back to people. I do read all the comments, but I can't. We get that many now, which I'm very appreciative of, but I can't reply to everybody because that's why I try and read as many as I can. But we'll be back. We'll certainly be back as soon as the return list drops. But if there's any more news on the takeover, we'll be back on this as well. So keep it Ramble. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades. Ramble on.